Hey everyone, welcome to the video. With MLB starting soon, I thought I would do a video explaining how to play MLB DFS for those of you who are new, and some of the tips I use to try and make successful lineups. Before I continue, if you could leave a like and subscribe to the channel, I would really appreciate that. So anyway, let's start with the pitchers. They're going to be very important because they can make or break your lineups, and on DraftKings we have to pick 2 versus 1 on FanDuel, so we really have to prioritize our pitching. So anyway, onto the tips. I generally try to stay below 20,000 salary combined on my 2 pitchers. The sweet spot's going to be about 17 to 20,000. And the reason this is because if we spend more than 20, it's going to be hard to fill in batters that can actually put up points for us. And also strikeouts are going to be king since we get an extra point for each strikeout. So we're going to want to target guys with big K upside because they can have the highest ceiling and can even give you a decent floor if they give up some runs. Okay, now on to the batters. For cash games, we want to build the safest lineup possible and avoid playing big risk players. So generally you want guys who are top 4 in the order because they will get the most plate appearances in a game. Preferably leadoff guys when you can. And more opportunity usually means more points, so that's pretty obvious. And we also want guys who can get on base because, well, only good things can happen once you get on base. And we're also going to want to avoid high strikeout guys in cash, but there is some exceptions. So for example, Stanton, he strikes out a lot, so he can be kind of volatile. But when he's facing a lefty, it's one of the biggest threats for a home run, and home runs can you're really going to need some home runs in your lineup to cash. So that's something we can make an exception for. And also last year, Joey Gallo, he's like a poor man's version of Stanton. He was super cheap for a certain amount of length, and he was in great weather, and he was on fire, so he just made sense in cash. And he was hitting like 5th, but it just made sense to roll him out. And now for GPPs, we're going to want to do game stacks. Most often the winning lineup is going to be some sort of game stack, or I should say just offensive stack. If you don't know what stacking is, it would be playing the guys 1 through 4 or 2 through 5 or 1 through 3 on the same offense. They will all feed off each other and provide good correlation. For example, I played the Nats 1 through 4 when they went off for over 20 runs versus the Mets one night. I don't know if any of you remember that. The points just keep piling on because they're all getting runs and RBIs off of each other. So stacking is the way to go in GPPs because it's a great correlation play. So the next important thing is Coors Field. And so why is Coors Field important? It's a run-producing monster, especially in the summer when it starts to get hot. The reason this is because of the high elevation in Colorado. The ball will travel farther through the air and in the thin air, making a better chance for homers and runs. And also the bad thing for pitchers is their breaking balls won't break as hard as usual. So if a pitcher relies heavily on curveballs or sliders, they will be at a huge disadvantage. So with that being said, we generally avoid using pitchers here, but there is a couple exceptions. And the last thing I want to talk about is the importance of the weather. So we're going to really want to pay attention to the weather. I'm no weatherman, so I'd recommend following meteorologist Kevin Roth on Twitter. I think he gives some great insight on how the weather is going to affect the games, and he does a great job breaking down how the weather won't impact each game as well. So anyway, the more hot and humid it is, the better hitting conditions will be. I remember last year in Texas, it was basically the new Coors Field for a while. It was over 100 degrees, and it was homers left and right. Everyone was stacking that game up. Players were over 60% owned. It was pretty insane. And when it's cold, it will suppress hitting overall. I'm an Indians fan, so watching their offense in the beginning of the year is pretty dreadful. The reason why is just because it's freezing here in April. It's like 30 degrees. So the ball just won't travel very far, and it really suppresses the offense. But once it warmed up, they started producing. So that goes, what I said with the hot and humid. And also games can get postponed. I've gotten bit by this before by not checking the weather beforehand, and I will never make that mistake again. So you're really going to want to make sure that your game's not at risk of being postponed. And also, in-game delays are going to ruin your pitcher. I would tend to avoid using the pitchers in the game because if the delay lasts long enough, it can knock your pitcher out for the rest of the game, and he's not going to come back in, and then you got screwed with 1 inning, and you paid, like let's say you paid $10K for Max Scherzer. I mean, you just got absolutely screwed there. Alright, so anyway, that's all I have for this video. I hope it was useful and it will help you for this season. I'm going to be posting MLB videos for the main slates on most days. I don't usually play earlier slates or late slates, and also if it's a super small slate, super small slate, I tend not to play either. But other than that, I'll be posting videos and breakdowns on all the slates that I do play. Sorry guys, if you have any questions, you can comment below. Leave a like and subscribe if you're new, and see ya.